And welcome back to DaGaimez, gamers. Today I'm going to discuss with you something I find completely fascinating and something that I do not see being discussed within the Star Citizen community, and that is ground warfare. Not just ground warfare, but land in itself. We've talked about this plenty in our Discord community, and talking with the community members really brings about a lot of questions that I think are important, that brings them into the light, that need to be answered, that aren't necessarily answered, and that is because we are at the earlier stages of design when it comes to property, when it comes to land and resources. These things were not really thought about early on in game development. A lot of people said we're not going to have this type of gameplay where it's going to be heavily dominated PvP against one another for resources. Now, it still's not really geared that way when you think about the actual amount of land out there. Sig said something to the effect that with the 1.9 million player base, which, let's face it, a lot of those are multiple accounts as well, but there's still plenty of people out there. I would say at least over 6, 7, possibly 800,000 actual real people. Even with that amount of people, that you would see something to the effect of not even covering I think it was like a quarter of one planet, you know, as far as the amount of land that there is out there. So the first question, really, when it comes down to it, is will there be a need to fight over resources? Because it's not just the land itself. A lot of people think, well, there's so much land, don't have to worry about it. Well, if the land has nothing but sand, then it's not really that valuable unless you're making glass, and you better be making a lot of glass. You know, you're trying to find valuable resources. You're trying to find resources that are scarce so that you can get the biggest bang for your buck when you're a prospector, when you're mining, when you're farming, when you're, you know, like whatever it is, the commodity that you want to sell. You're going to have to make sure that the plot of land that you have is very valuable. And then you get into the argument or the discussion of, well, how populated are resources going to be on the planet? You know, depending upon weather, the actual weather systems that are coming in, affecting the terrain. You know, are your crops going to get destroyed in the area? Are your resources going to get damaged? The pioneer that came into the game brought about this whole concept of us taking land and making it worth something because we're building our own colonies. Now, this was not something that was planned, or we thought was planned previous to the pioneer. The pioneer was, in fact, not necessarily the pioneer, not the game changer, but what it does is a game changer, which is building colonies, personal player colonies. This is a revelation. This is something we should be very happy about because it brings about deep, immersive gameplay. When you're talking about organizations wanting to control resources on planets, you definitely are going to have some PvP aspects involved because some people are going to want to lay claim to the land. As far as the mechanics are involved, we know that right now there's two mechanics that we're involved in. The lot claims, which guarantees a 4x4 or an 8x8 kilometer plot because they're trying to raise money. You know, a lot of people were upset because they're like, oh, Sig's trying to raise more money. Let Sig raise money for the game. Jesus. Leave them alone. They're trying to find ways they can raise money. The lot claims were one, and basically it guarantees citizens plots of land in UEE space. Nothing was discussed about plots of land in other remote areas that are not in UEE space, how that's going to work. Possibly with the geotac beacons, being able to stake claims on land that perhaps are not in UEE space. and then going to the bureau and racing there and saying, hey, you put down the beacon, you get the data from the beacon, you go to the bureau and you say, okay, I want this piece of land. Now, how the mechanics are going to work when it comes down to, are you going to be able to take the claim away from somebody? Probably not. Are you going to be able to beat them into submission to take the resources? I think so. And this is what's being contested right now in the community, and it's not being talked about that much, really. And that's why I like talking about that, because you will see ground warfare come about. You will see this, and this is evidenced by the new Tumbril Nova tank that has been brought in. First ground tank, first combative ground vehicle brought into the game, I think brings about the answer, which is yes, there will be the ability to fight over these resources, over the land. There will be penalties for people that commit these quote-unquote crimes on UEE space land where the beacons and these lot claims are put down. But just how deep it's going to get involved in the mechanics when it comes to people wanting those resources and taking them violently is something that's not really being discussed, because it is early on in the design phase. Now, this is what we need to start voicing up and telling SIG what we want. I want crazy amounts of ground warfare. Right now, it's very difficult for me to get decent frame rates in the game. So to imagine, like, 60-ish people in one area fighting with tanks and air cover, and that's another thing people say, oh, I don't think the ground warfare is even going to play a part in this, because you can just you aerial bombard things, and what's the point of having any ground units? There will be anti-air ground vehicles. Of course there will be anti-air. I guarantee that within the next year they're going to come out with another ground combat vehicle that's going to be like an anti-air unit. It's going to be so fucking cool. It's going to be so fucking cool. And that's the cool thing about this game, is every time we get into these talks, there's so many people that will shout and say, no, that's not what's going to happen. And look how many times that it has. When it comes to survivor mechanics, people were screaming at us saying, no, that's not the way it's going to be. Yes, it is the way it's going to be. When it came to trading, and we were worried that it was going to be all NPC related, and players wouldn't have the ability to really get involved in the economy, and we were worried, like, oh shit, like, we want more of a player controlled kind of economy where we can actually have an effect on pricing, and those prices mean something, and those commodities mean something, and we were worried about it. And now we're seeing that we don't have anything to worry about, because more power is being put into the player, which is important. We have to balance that, of course, because we don't want griefing all over the place. We don't want it so that there is no balance of power and people are getting completely trolled all the time. There's that. We've got to be careful about that. So SIG needs to police that in a way. And I think the way that they're going to police the claims when it comes to staking claim to land is that if it is UEE based, there's strict penalties. Your rating goes down significantly so. But in areas that are not UEE space, nothing was really been discussed. And when it comes to resources, that's a good question. How many resources are going to be on the planet? How many good, juicy, those really good, profitable stakes of land that give you those great resources? How many of those areas are going to be on this large planet or moon? And the question really does become is, like, how many people are going to occupy, like, the amount of people versus the amount of resources. Are there just going to be so much resources out there when the game's finally, when it's finalized and finished, that there's going to be no need for it? I don't think so. I don't think that SIG would necessarily do that. There's going to be some pockets where there's a particular resource, be it a mineral, be it a very fertile part of land that grows a particular type of flora. There's going to be certain areas. There always is in games. There's always that certain sweet spot. And those spots will be fought over by organizations. Of course, they'll be fought over by large player organizations to start. And then the smaller organizations come in and kind of fill the vacuum for the mid-range goodness that are on these planets. So that's something that I find really completely interesting. But there will be ground warfare. I believe there will be ground warfare at some point. I really look forward to that, because people who love the strategics of building themselves a particular type of squad or fleet in different types of environments, with different types of weather, with different types of combatants, like people that love the strategics are going to be completely satisfied, because there will be that type of gameplay where you want those resources, where you will attack those people for those resources. This is what I believe people want. At least I know in our community, that's what people want. I want to discuss it with the people in our community. I know that's what they want. I know they want there to be some type of... Who doesn't want there? Are you crazy? Who wouldn't want ground warfare? Unless you're really a peaceful farmer and you want to be left alone and you're like, I just want to hear the roosters crow every morning. That's it. And you're playing Farmville Star Citizen. And if that's your type of gameplay, just be careful that you don't have the best resource that you're sitting on, because I'm telling you, somebody's going to come and somebody's going to want that. But good questions. Really, will there be that so much abundance of the resources that people won't really need to fight over because the player base can't keep up with the actual resources that are out there? I mean, who's to know, who's to say? But I think that SIG will be mindful of this as the game becomes closer and closer to launch date, and they will make it so that people will have to fight over them. And nothing really discussed about if NPCs are going to have land claims as well, but I'm sure every once in a while you'll see like NPC stations like you do in 3.0 already. You're seeing like, the quote-unquote NPC areas that you can get involved in. So I'm sure that's going to be mixed in as well. But as far as the actual power being put into hands of players now, I'm very happy to see that this is being discussed. I'm happy to see that there is a shift in the thinking within SIG, that they are putting more power into the players' hands. It makes gameplay immersive. It makes gameplay much more fun when you know that your opponent is human, that is living and breathing on the other end of another PC, and that's what people want. And so bravo, and I look forward to more cool ground combat vehicles. A lot of people kind of dismiss the tank, and you shouldn't, because it's going to play an important part. And the cool thing is that there's going to be a type of gameplay where people really want to just stay focused on the planet that they're on. Some people might not even want to get off the planet that they are on. They might want to live on the planet. Do you understand the significance of that? That is a very cool thing to think about. There are going to be people that are just basically ground-based, that are working for large organizations, that are like, okay, you want to ship me somewhere with my tank? Fine. Here we go. Of course, I think everybody really wants to go out and kind of explore space. Who wouldn't? But there's going to be people that want to play that kind of like survivor mode, living on the planet, kind of more. They're going to spend the majority of their time on the planet than they are kind of going around, because they're more absorbed in that type of gameplay. So there's going to be that as well. And this brings about so many different types of gameplay. It's what I've been saying since the very beginning of making videos here on the channel, is that because there is so many different genres of play within this game, so many different ways you can play this game, there gravitates a large mass of people that will want to play this game. Once it becomes more flushed out, once it becomes more finished, you are going to have a large amount of people hit this game. and people really aren't ready for it. They don't understand what's going to happen to this game. It's going to be it's going to get crushed by people coming into it because there's so many different ways you can play this game. It accommodates all different types of gameplay. And ground warfare, ground mechanics, land mechanics, prospecting, mining, farming, these types of things, exploration, they're all here. And I love it. And I love this game. It's so goddamn good. Breathe it in. Soak it up. And thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching here on DaGaimez. I'm feeling better. I'm getting better every day. Thanks for all the love and support you guys have been showing me. We will be having a giveaway coming up very shortly where we're giving away a Cutlass and a Dragonfly package together thanks to one of our friends here in the community, Jags. And I will be advertising his organization for the wonderful gift that he is offering to others that will be coming up shortly. So stay tuned for that announcement. Go check out my stream down below. Go ahead and follow me there because I'm going to get back into streaming. Go ahead and check out the Patreon page. The more people donate, the bigger the prizes. Everything's spelled out and planned out on there so you guys can see the master plan. And let's help me get to 10,000 subscribers. Let's get me to 10,000, guys. Thanks for watching DaGaimez. And I'll see you guys on the next vid.